So in the previous video, we looked at how we can begin to balance these perspectives of control and connection in our social lives, in our political discourses. We can find moments in which we can try and get better policies, try and have and get more things that we think work on a social level, at the same time as finding opportunities to be more open, to pay attention to what we don't know, to listen to different voices. And what I want to do in this video is to critique that idea a little bit and go a little bit deeper and ask, what are we ultimately doing this for? How are we ultimately thinking about political change and about social change? Are we simply adapting our policies and discourses to put in a bit more connection so that we can effectively control things better, so we can effectively still beat all the diseases, beat the other side, beat crime or other types of behaviour we don't like in society? Because if that's so, we may find that control still becomes the dominant narrative over time. And in the post-happiness series, I asked people to think about what's ultimately important to them. Is it control and the outcomes and what your individual life looks like? Or is it connection and the process of how you live your life, and kind of almost inevitably plan B rather than plan A, recognizing that life doesn't go to plan? How would you want to look back at your life at the end of it? Do you want to say, oh, I had this, this and this, good career, good relationships, good health and so on? Or do you want to say, I had a good life because I was open to what matters, I was alive to what I really cared about, and I responded to the best of my ability? Is it the outcomes that matter or the process? Is it control or connection? And of course both matter, but we can still ask this question, what's fundamentally most important? And we can do the same on a social level. When it comes to social change, when it comes to politics and justice, of course we want outcomes. Of course we want less poverty, less crime, better health, better education, and so on. But what's ultimately important? We can look back at the end of our lives again, and on a social level, how did we contribute towards a better society, having a good society? Did we make various outcomes possible? Did we realize various outcomes, in which case that's good? But what's ultimately important, did we contribute to the process of creating the society that we care about? Did we stay open and listening to everyone's views and respond accordingly? Did we continue to be alive to the things that really mattered on a social level and on a global level and on a community level, and then responded to the best of our ability? And so I think we can design our politics, we can design our political discourse in a similar way, where we ask this question, what's ultimately important in education, what's ultimately important in health, what's ultimately important in terms of our democracy as a whole? Is it achieving various immediate or medium-term outcomes, or is it the process of being alive to what matters for us collectively, what matters to the whole human race, what matters to the whole earth, and responding as best as we can? And I believe that there is a real switch and that can happen in how we go about doing things if we believe that the process is ultimately important. Our time scale changes. We start to think much more long term. We start to think much more systemically. We start to realize that we may reduce crime within the next year or two with various simple narratives and warlike measures, but do we actually deal with any of the underlying causes? We start to see things in this deeper way. We start to realize that, okay, we could defeat the other side in a particular argument, but that doesn't mean we're all going to be living happily ever after, they're likely going to want to come back and defeat us in the next issue or argument, and so on. So I think we really want to ask ourselves, what's ultimately more important? Is it outcomes in social change, or is it the process of social change itself? And in the next video, I'm going to talk about what the likely implications of this change are in more detail, and how it can take us to a form of post-progress politics.